The fuse has been lit for Turkey. All eyes are on Turkey in the coming weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, the planet has arrived at another critical juncture or fork in the road as we head full throttle towards the events. We're going to get into the ins and outs of what's happening with Turkey, how it's the latest attempt by the cabal to manifest its Luciferian religious prophecies of Gog versus Magog. You'll want to listen very carefully to this amazing interview that we had with Turkish patriot and Summer. And of course, don't forget, we got the two huge meditations, mass meditations, 144K mass meditations for tomorrow's solstice alignment meditation. Very early in the morning if you're in the US. That's right, folks. Sometimes we need to do this. That's what operations are like. And of course, the Turkish presidential elections mass meditation on Saturday afternoon, US time. We're going to try to push everything on to the highest timeline for the highest good of humanity, because we're going to be there deciding what happens for we the people and Ascension. And of course, to prepare for the mass meditations tomorrow morning and on Saturday, we're going to go over a bit of prepping, covering the 5 foundational points to be able to see energy and meditate better. So don't miss out on that bit of training straight after the interview. That's tonight on Ground Crew Command Radio. You're listening to The Unknown Light Warrior. And we're back. You're listening to Ground Crew Command Radio. This is The Unknown Light Warrior. And to put it simply, this is another big choice point for you, for me, and the whole planet and Gaia and her children. We once again have a very real opportunity to write history ourselves. And I'm not kidding you. I'm not just being dramatic. I'm not being melodramatic. It is the way it is. I'm being very literal, grounded, and serious. Don't kid yourself about that. For anyone making the wrong assumption, without even realizing it perhaps. Those who control the energies control the destiny of humanity. And it's up to us to do this consistently through, for the most part, global mass meditations, and certainly to a significant degree, for those of us who are guided this way or have been guided this way, grid work and remote planetary clearing work. And I don't know if you've noticed the past, I would say 3 days, things have calmed down and improved and stabilised somewhat. Well, it's because a lot of the plasma, negative plasma, and whatever darkness hiding within that negative plasma that's at the surface physical plane level and within people's fields, a lot of that's been cleared away, which is why things have been a little smoother. Of course, there's always some of us that are going through an intense period of internal purification that are only just sort of catching up with it now. For you, it may still be a little rough. And of course, the bit of training coming up after the interview with Turkish Patriot and Summer will really help with that, because if you don't grasp these basic foundational techniques of seeing energy, seeing the non-physical, it's going to be hard. It will be hard. And I've been there. And for those of you that have been doing energy work on the planet or yourself and are quite familiar with it, it'll be a nice refresher. But for very clear and apparent reasons, I'm keeping the geopolitical and exopolitical planetary liberation news analysis and perspective sort of a little low on this episode, because the main focus and emphasis has to be on tomorrow's solstice mass meditation. You know, apparently it's a big alignment event, onto, once again, the highest timeline, okay, that's constant every so often. And in the past few years, it's been every few months, but these days, it's been every few weeks. And I know that resonates with you. There's been choice points, you know, alignment to the highest timeline or lowest timeline sort of choice points that the planet arrives at. And the solstice meditation tomorrow morning, US time, and the 144K global mass meditation, the other one, Saturday afternoon US time for the Turkish presidential elections. Pivotal, absolutely pivotal. You know, where we're going to be offered where to take humanity. How fast can we arrive at the event in a smoother and more certain and stable way. But we have to act on that choice. We have to, we'll be shown the door, well, several doors, and we've got to choose the highest frequency doorway. We're the ones that have to, turn the doorknob and walk through. You're all familiar with that analogy that you've heard 1,000 times. Okay. So let's make it happen. Let's take charge. Let's do what we're here to do, fulfill our soul mission. And rest assured, to use the euphemism partners in contrast, they're going to be doing their usual rituals, which I won't get into details about. I'm sure you know all about what they do. They're going to be doing their rituals at about the same time, maybe a bit prior. It might even start tonight, which is just a few hours away. But they're going to be doing their rituals to bring in that really nasty energy down into Gaia's grid, to therefore alter the frequencies of the planet to a lower timeline. Okay, so I want to make sure you're fully aware of that. That this is a game that's being played for keeps, and we have to step up, and channel our multi-dimensional true identity through our physical vessels, I guess, and into this realm. This is what the 144K mass meditations are all about. And of course, there's other groups doing mass meditations as well, which I want to take the opportunity to salute and give a big shout out to. And it's as I've said in the promotional article for this episode, the cabal, physical and non-physical, at all levels, they are freaking out because, like George Soros said, from their perspective, everything that has gone wrong is going wrong. They've lost the US, okay, according to Fulford sources at least. You know, the battle against the deep state is winding down and pretty soon coming to a conclusion, and you may see, you know, indictments of all the big fish and actual arrests come out even on the mainstream media. Well, it'll certainly come out on Fox. You know, the former neocon lackey, which appears to be somewhat emancipated these days, but anyway, I digress. You know, the cabal, both physical and non-physical, is throwing everything they've got into manifesting their prophecy, or more like at this point, their wishful thinking of Gog versus Magog. And for those of you who haven't read the promotional article for this show at returntoyourtruth.com/blog, where I provide some more details and perspective. You know, they're throwing everything they've got in making the current president of Turkey, Recep Erdogan, to basically start a war under the guise of trying to resurrect the old Ottoman Empire and, you know, signalling to Turkish patriotism. And really what they're doing is working for the Zionists that control Israel to resurrect Babylon, quite literally, and eventually set up the heartland, the heart or the capital of their empire in the area around Baghdad, you know, between or at around the Euphrates and Tigris River, which also stem from Turkey. So they're trying to resurrect Babylon. They're the old empire that they originally founded and built, which we all know as the Sumerian, pre-ancient Sumerian Empire, sometime after the fall of Atlantis, and ruled from there. So there we go. We're going to get into details during this pre-recorded interview about what we're going to actually meditate for, as far as the Saturday's mass meditation is concerned. Because we have a choice. You know, it's long been prophesied that there's going to be a short and intense regional war centered around Turkey. There's a Greek Orthodox priest that prophesied this as well. And like I said, Cobra revealed 2 years ago that in the near future, Turkey may be the trigger for a short but intense military escalation just before the planetary breakthrough. So let's just be, cynical about this and say that the war's going to happen no matter what. It's still up to us to, through the mass meditation, place the planet on that particular timeline where the war is very short, with minimal casualties to loss of life. Okay? So, just to clarify, don't be disheartened if a war takes place even after our mass meditation this Saturday and President Erdogan still wins the election. Rest assured, it still has to happen. There's still at least, don't get me wrong, we're going to absolutely do everything within our power, within our energetic power, to put the planet on the timeline where there's absolutely no war and Erdogan, wakes up, uses a bit of logic and switches sides okay, and literally joins the Earth Alliance, that's what we're shooting for this Saturday. But, you know, again, there's several timeline possibilities, and we're going to do our best to get to the highest first. And if we can't get to the highest one first, where there's no war at all, and Turkey is liberated and taken into the fold of the Earth Alliance, if we somehow, for whatever reason, don't get into that timeline, then, you know, there's the other timelines where, you know, there's either no war regardless, or there's just a very short war with very light casualties. So anyway, let's get into it. Let's make a start here and get into all the ins and outs of what's actually happening in Turkey, because now Turkey is taking centre stage. Okay, despite the battle that still hasn't been won and completed here in the US, Turkey still is taking up centre stage now, especially this Saturday. And we have to step up and make things go for the highest good of humanity. And the mass meditation for the solstice, which is tomorrow, that'll also really help set things up and prepare things for us being able to just make that breakthrough on Saturday's Turkish presidential elections mass meditation to go even better. So let's bring on Turkish patriot and Summer, who know the intimate details, intimate knowledge of what's going on the ground in Turkey, all the details about, you know, the Zionist bloodline masters that are giving out the orders through the Rothschilds and the Jesuit network in trying to resurrect their Babylonian empire under the guise of resurrecting the Ottoman Empire and some sort of quote-unquote holy Islamic, you know, righteousness, I guess, you know, to lie to perfectly innocent, well-meaning Muslims in the region. And this has got to get shut down. We'll get into the details about the populist rival Turkish presidential candidate, Muharrem İnce, who certainly seems very much grassroots and not a fake opposition that's propped up by the cabal in its usual MO of controlling both sides. That doesn't appear to be the case, but we're giving you here the information, the intimate details, so you can make your own decision, draw your own conclusion of what's happening in Turkey. But Turkey now takes centre stage, and it needs our attention, the attention of the awake and aware world, let alone the army of light, known as the 144,000. This is Ground Crew Command Radio. You're listening to The Unknown Light Warrior. And here we go, folks. We've got what we're going to call the Turkish Patriot in an undisclosed location on the line. And we've got Summer, another light warrior, in another undisclosed location. Both experts on the situation
on the ground in Turkey. And so with the war against the deep state in the US winding down, according to Fulford's sources, at least, more attention, more eyes are now being focused on Turkey. And like I've said, the timeline, the path to planetary liberation and the restoration of unconditional freedom and free will has reached that point where Turkey now takes centre stage because of all the reasons we're going to go into. It'll be 5 main points about Erdogan, what he's been told to do, who he really works for, and of course the attempt by the cabal to ultimately, cut a long story short, resurrect the old pre-ancient Babylonian Empire and just do the usual thing that the cabal does, rule through subversion in covert ways. So, first of all, Turkish Patriot,
Yes.
You're on. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Fantastic. And Summer, you can hear me fine?
Yes. Hello, everybody.
Fantastic. Thank you for your time on coming onto Ground Crew Command. And let's just quickly get into it because, you know, the situation in Turkey, especially this coming Sunday, is another critical pivot point or fork in the road for humanity and the timeline to the event. And let me see here. And before I ask why the upcoming elections in Turkey this coming Sunday are so important, I do want to remind everyone that Cobra has confirmed, and this is something like 2 years ago, Cobra has confirmed that Erdogan is an incarnated archon who is following darkness's guidelines. Seemingly the bloodlines themselves through the Rothschilds and the Jesuits, just to orientate people with the actual command structure and where he sits within that command structure of the cabal. And yeah, let's get into it. What can you tell us about the upcoming presidential elections? And then after that, we'll get into the rival candidate, you know, let me say Muharrem Ince. You can pronounce Ince. I beg your pardon. And then we'll get into him and how he represents seemingly Turkey's last hope.
Yeah.
And in terms of a more higher timeline frequency, humanity's last hope, arguably. So let's get into it. Why are they so important, these upcoming elections in Turkey? They're presidential elections, right?
Yes.
Yes, well, actually, it's both presidential and the parliamentary election. And it's going to be on June. There are actually 2 rounds. The first round is going to be on June 24th. Mm-hmm. And then the second round, if it is needed for the presidential election, is going to be early July. With that said, I'm going to hand it over to Turkish Patriot to tell us the details about the candidates.
Thank you, Summer. First of all, if the ruling party and Erdogan wins these elections, there won't be any more prime minister. There will be only one head of the state. So, there will be parliament, but it will be only a puppet. It won't change which decisions taken there. There will be only one man in power. So I believe you can imagine, you can see how dangerous this is. And so basically it will convert a secular democratic country to a total dictatorship. And he is following some prophecies and some agendas which is ruled by the elites the bloodline families and some otherworldly powers, dark powers. So this election is not going to only affect Turks or the people who lives in Turkey. It will affect the outcome of this election, affect all the people in the world.
Yeah. Well, they are going to be electing about 600, I think exactly 600 parliament members. And also there are 6 candidates to be are there for the presidential election. One of them is a woman, but it is predicted that most likely Erdogan or Muharrem İnce, which is the candidate of the biggest opposing party, one of them is going to be the president.
Okay.
So to talk about who Muharrem İnce is, he's like a regular guy, actually. His father was a truck driver, and he's a physics teacher. And he has been in the parliament for the past 16 years. And he said for first 14 years of that period, he was still renting an apartment. And he said, I finally managed to buy an apartment for myself, so I am planning to live there even if I am elected president, and I'm planning to use the all these White Palace, all the other official buildings for official business. He's a very interesting guy. He's like everybody's person. I mean, it's like he talks to people. He talks about unity a lot because he's saying that, okay, guys, we are at the end of the road here. Kurds, Alevis, like Sunnis, women, Armenians. We all need to, get together, and this is the time to get together. No matter what religion you have, this is the time to do this. And he is representing the change. And he's also talking about quantum physics, which is very interesting. We don't know how awakened he is about the concepts we know, but seeing him that way is really, really good.
Well, based on what I've been told, he was a physics teacher, specialising in quantum physics.
Yes.
So that opens up the possibility he may know all about how consciousness controls and influences quantum particles, like the double slit experiment, which many people know about. He may know fully all about that, and so I found that interesting.
Yes, and he's very like. I actually have to tell you, on the Mother's Day, he was doing a speech in one of these cities, and he couldn't visit his mother and say like "Happy birthday, Mom," and the local people of that place, the city he visited, had a surprise for him, and during his speech, they bring his mother to the stage, and he sees his mother, and he starts crying. It was a very emotional moment. And he's very human, and I just like it very much.
Yeah, I can't imagine an incarnated Archon crying over the surprise of his mother appearing. I can't imagine that, but they are the way they are, and obviously we're taking care of them. But anyway, it sounds like Turkey is in a similar sort of political situation as to what the United States was in 2016 with the presidential elections here. You got an overt cabal member running a presidential election, an incumbent in this case, and then you've got, at least seemingly, a rival populist white hat faction-backed presidential candidate as well. So it's hard not to notice the similarities there. And you know, obviously, if Hillary Clinton won over here in 2016, we would have almost seen a military coup sometime in early 2017, because at that point the White Hat faction didn't have a choice. So Muharrem, he sounds completely authentic, sincere. His loyalties seem to lie with all Turkish citizens. As I understand it, he's getting a certain amount of Kurdish and Armenian support as well, because I know if Erdogan succeeds in what seems to be dissolving parliament effectively, you know, they're screwed. You know, they know everyone's screwed if Erdogan successfully wins the presidential elections and then successfully dissolves parliament. Would that be a fair assessment, an accurate assessment?
Yes, because like even today they don't have enough power to raise their voices. I mean the Kurds and Armenians and etc. And if Erdogan wins again, so they will be in a like really difficult situation. Like even Turks won't raise their voices, and so I can't even imagine about the Kurds and Armenians, unfortunately.
Yeah, and just to clarify, Erdogan has been explicit about changing from a parliamentary system to a presidential system, where his plan is to eventually have either no prime minister and no parliament, or simply change the laws where parliament and prime minister pretty much have no power anyway, and will it just exist for the sake of appearing like a democracy when it's not? Is that the plan that he explicitly said?
I couldn't hear you very well.
Okay. What has Erdogan actually said over the years where he admits that he plans to dissolve parliament and remove power from the prime ministership? Has he actually said anything to that effect, or is it just insider information that has revealed that?
Actually, he said that in different words, not exactly how you said. He's now in these days, he's talking himself and his party are talking about new Turkey. Like we are living in new Turkey right now, and he's talking about in the back in the days in old Turkey there was this, and people were like living like this. He is dividing the country old and new, but this new Turkey, as he describes, is going further towards to
dictatorship.
Dictatorship than secular state.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things he did was to take in effect some rules and regulations, or placing some certain people at certain places, so that judicial system independence is in question. And it's all playing out from different angles, and it's all about control.
Yes, and let me add something. Like first of all, but this opposing leader candidate, he's saying a judge shouldn't fear the president or anyone. If it comes to that, the judge should even trial me, put me on trial. They shouldn't fear me, the president. But in these days in Turkey, like forget about the president, forget about the prime minister, even a minister or a senator from ruling party, judges fear them. They cannot take any decision against them.
Yeah, I see. So by judge you mean judges, the judicial system. Is that what you mean?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Realistically, I only see Muharrem Ince, I beg your pardon. I only see him succeeding in winning the presidential election if he gets the backing that he needs from the, the secular faction of the Turkish military. Similar in the same way that, Trump was only able to win only because he had the backing of the White Hats and the Pentagon over here, and they physically intervened in the rigging of the election. We're talking, based on Fulford sources, we're talking an actual special forces raid on a particular IT floor of a building. I think it was near Denver, if I remember correctly, where they literally, at gunpoint, de-rigged the election, which allowed a more fairer election to take place. Although they still let Hillary Clinton win some states, and hide the fact that he apparently won the popular vote by 7 million. They allowed that to go by. Otherwise, if it looked like such a landslide, then the cabal through its establishment media would be screaming the elections were rigged. So they let her win some states and the popular vote. Now, what's the current state of the secular faction of the Turkish military that's always been the long-time guardian of Westernisation and secularism in Turkey and the protectorate of that? I'm concerned that they've been, to one degree or another, rendered harmless or wiped out during the failed coup attempt back in 2016. They tried to remove Erdogan out of power through that military coup. It didn't succeed. Are they still in a strong enough position to back this brave Turkish presidential candidate to run against Erdogan? And of course, don't answer this question if it risks compromising anything, obviously.
Okay, I can start with that. Like, first of all, the suppressing and wiping out the white hats of Turkish military didn't start with didn't happen at the time of the failed coup. It started at 2005,
operations like Balyoz and
there were some operations against the white hats of the military called Balyoz, basically means hammer, and Sarıkız and Ergenekon, which is Ergenekon is a Turkish myth, by the way, a name of a Turkish myth. And with these operations, they suppress the white hats from they tried to suppress the white hats and throw them into the jails, into the cells, and big majority of them stayed at least 5-6 years in the cells in the prison. But at the end of 2013, they got out. 2013 and 2014, actually.
I have to stop you here, and I just have to say a couple things. A lot of these people who were put into jail, for basically nothing, they were all framed. A lot of them committed suicide. They got sick. They ended up having cancer. I happen to know a few of these people, and it wasn't right it was not fair. So these people got out, and majority of them couldn't even go back to their, job, being member of the military. And so coup actually is the second wave of that. So. There have been things happening against the good people of the military already. So I do not know the state of military right now. I think the Turkish Patriot will know more about that.
It doesn't seem well. like it doesn't really seems well, but I still have hopes for that because like when they try to make a coup, many people don't know. Let me add, like many people see, many foreigners sees Erdogan lied about the coup and he organized it himself. It didn't happen like that actually. Like it goes into so much detail. There was actually a real authentic coup by the ruling party learned it earlier, a day earlier. There will be a coup from what we call FETÖ, who basically is the leader of this movement, lives in Pennsylvania, called Fethullah Gülen.
Yeah, so hold on 1 second. I just have to add some information here. So Americans know this guy with the name Fethullah Gülen, and this guy actually started a lot of charter schools in the United States, and it started becoming a bigger thing because apparently the charter schools were successful. And then there were some documentaries about these schools where the teachers were not treated fairly or things like that. So we started hearing about Fethullah Gülen in the U.S. too. And also Fethullah Gülen had connections to Hillary Clinton. I believe I read something about that connection, that Gülen movement provided hundreds of thousands of dollars to Hillary Clinton. So this is another different angle, and I cannot explain and I cannot understand how it is all connected. Because at this state, Erdogan doesn't like Fethullah Gülen, and Fethullah Gülen was in good terms with Hillary Clinton. So,
okay, so, we understand it does get pretty convoluted.
In my point, basically, Cabal didn't wanna put all of their eggs in the same basket. They both supported FETÖ and Erdogan. Yeah. And when this, like I said, when this coup happened, the ruling party and Erdogan learned it learned it earlier, and they took some measurements. They knew it's gonna happen, so they took some measurements, and also
they used this coup to their advantage to clear all opposition from around them. I guess. I guess this is what you are trying to say. Yes.
Yes, they now in these days, like they also use this thing, like Summer said, to clear the remaining white hats still trying to, and infiltrated FETÖ members. Yet this topic also connected with the downing of the Russian jet, also Syrian war. And more like many people.
We'll get into that. We will get into that. I just want to sort of give people a good picture, a good holistic bird's eye picture of how seemingly since taking power, Erdogan has been doing many things to try to basically put in prison or murder or demote all the white hats within the Turkish military and consolidate his control over the Turkish military. And so you're saying that the white hat faction of the Turkish military were attempting a coup, and basically Erdogan, it was leaked to him?
No, not the white hats. Not the white hats were doing the coup. These so-called FETÖ members who infiltrated army. They were the ones who tried to make the coup. Not the white hats. White hats. Actually, okay. Let me add this. White hats they stayed at the position alongside with them, with FETÖ members. But when the coup actually happened, when the coup actually started, they just abandoned. They just abandoned and left them alone and vulnerable. And
yes.
yeah, and so Erdogan and the other military members knew where to hit and who to hit. So White Hats basically tricked FETÖ members and also Erdogan. But Erdogan, at that time they supported Erdogan because if that time something happened to Erdogan, Turkey might gone full darkness. But it sounds weird and
I understand.
Yeah, but it's like
it
really
could have caused. So if the White Hats did intervene in the coup on the side of the FETÖ group, it could have risked breaking up Turkey and possibly even a civil war. Is that what you're saying?
Actually, if they were involved, the White Hats, the coup would have finished with success.
I see. And this FETÖ movement, just to clarify, who controls that? Is it a negative faction or a positive faction? Who do they work for?
Okay, basically in the press, in the foreign press, it's the guy Fethullah Gülen called cleric, Muslim cleric. It sounds like a guy who doesn't really involve too much with anything, but actually he was trying to infiltrate the Turkish bureaucracy and military and judicial system even since 70s.
This is a long-term project, so yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So it was basically an Islamic group. Is that fair to say?
No. Yes, it seems an Islamic group, but actually it's not an Islamic group. It's just using Islam, the name of Islam and the ways of Islam to attract people, to brainwash people and use them against their for their agenda, for their own agenda. And this group basically backed by Cabal, the factions of Cabal.
But I'm not personally clear that who Fethullah Gülen is working with, the Rockefeller faction or Rothschild. I do not know actually.
Yeah.
But it's definitely another control mechanism that was built over the years, and this has been going on since 70s. It seems.
Okay, that the Cabal was always in control of, and in this case they were using it to also threaten and control Erdogan as well, it seems.
Right, yes.
Yeah, that makes sense, because there's always different groups that operate under some sort of, benevolent, holy pretext, but ultimately is controlled by, one Cabal faction or another. Sometimes rival factions within the Cabal, which does exist. So I just wanted to get people a clearer picture of that and get that cleared up, because, a lot of people remember the failed coup in 2016. And it plays a critical role in this conversation. So with that out of the way, let's move on let's go further deeper down the rabbit hole, which is, the typical specialty of a light worker. And let's get into the ancient prophecy about the land of Canaan. The prophecy states that the last war between Gog and Magog, or as my wonderful friend Rob Potter would put it, Gog and Magog. That's a joke, Rob. That the last war between Gog and Magog will be Armageddon, and that it will start between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers, or what was, lo and behold, Babylon. Surprise, surprise. And so now, speaking for what I represent, I guess, now the 144K has to get involved because we need to, thoroughly discuss this thing and give people a full orientation of how all of this directly, not just directly relates to it, but is run by this. So let's get into Gog and Magog and the prophecy, the land of Canaan. Who wants to go first?
Okay, let me start with present day. In 80s, or late 70s and 80s, there was a plan. It was a CIA plan, or let's say cabal plan, called Great Middle East Project, which Turks call BOP. In that project, it seemed to Turkish people, it conveyed it's a project to flourish the area, making some developments, making the area more civilized, and making people's lives better, and etc. So on. But in the end, actually, it was a project for caliphate, which controlled and directed by Mossad and Israel, which was a plan for Greater Israel.
Yes, and of course, so yet again, it's a pretext. The pretext being to develop the Middle East, industrialize it, develop it, and so forth, which was the pretext for resurrecting Babylon, the Babylonian Empire, which would actually be controlled, it would be controlled by the bloodlines, the Cabal, but it would be done through Israel.
Yes.
Because Israel itself couldn't expand in any official, overt way under its banner, so it would do it this way. Is that fair?
Yes, actually. And when Erdogan, even before Erdogan came into power, he was openly saying, I am the co-president of BOP.
I'm sure he was.
yeah. But along the years, he became drunk with the power he get, and the original plan was turning the area to caliphate state.
A caliphate,
uniting the Muslim countries around that, and
so it'll be like Saudi Arabia, run by a strict Islamic Sharia law type thing, except really at the very top, the Saudi royals, and in this example, the Satanists working for the bloodlines.
Yes. But along the years, Erdogan became drunk with the power he got, and he, as you know, he supported destruction of Syria, the Syrian war. Before the war, he was calling Assad, the president of the Syria, my brother Assad. And after that, it became his
enemy.
Enemy. His.
The way Tony Blair did it with Colonel Gaddafi.
Yes. Basically, with all these, with some of these military operations, Turkey recently operated. Not the most recent one. I'm talking about 3 and 4 years ago. It was expanding. It was aimed to expand the Turkish borders, but the aim was expanding it for the Muslim Union, like the Islam Union, as I described earlier.
Using that to.
Yes, basically Iran and Russia oppose that because they don't want to be surrounded by this new to-be power. Because they know the Third World War which is already begun, is near and it's already started, and they didn't want this power so near to them, and they didn't want to help or be okay with the letting this ancient prophecy, be happen so easily, at least.
Because it's important to mention, it was also part of this prophecy that Damascus would be destroyed right before the apocalypse.
Yes.
And, like I said, Cobra said that there's going to be a short and intense war just before the event. And so we can sort of conflate the apocalypse, which is the Cabal's version of the event, basically, with the event that we're fighting for. And with what we see going down in Turkey and Syria, it's all clearly, seemingly ready to happen very soon.
Cobra said that was communicated to him by dragon sources, that there may be an intense military escalation just before the planetary breakthrough. And this what is happening in Turkey right now may be taking us to that point.
And it's all driven by the overall goal and desires of the Cabal to resurrect the old Sumerian civilization, in other words, Babylon, once again, that it would control, and it'll be under the guise of a Islamic caliphate.
Yes. And the Turkish elections appear to be the final battle leading up to this. And not only Turkey, let's not forget Turkey, Israel, USA, and England, the figureheads, the leading parties to that ancient Zionist Babylon.
And keep in mind that before the election, there were some interesting developments, like Erdogan made a visit to Vatican City.
The Vatican, yes.
Yes, supposedly to discuss the Jerusalem, issue. But it was interesting because he was like the first Turkish president who ever visited them after like 50-something years, and this happened recently. So it makes you want to ask some questions if it is related to this like election or what is being planned. So.
Well, we can obviously confidently say as light workers that it's the, Erdogan is just reporting to his boss, or one of them, because the Pope, this black Pope, Jesuit Pope, is obviously the spokesperson for the 13 bloodlines, is another way to put it, and the P2 Freemason Lodge for that matter.
Yeah.
And, so he's it's a classic case of using religion, in this case Islam, and the Turkish military that hopefully, and very secretly, he doesn't have too much control over, but certainly doesn't have completely control over, to expand out Turkey's borders and resurrect Zionist Babylon. And, Erdogan is carrying out his orders to that effect. So it's another classic case. Go ahead.
He may not even know that this is the bigger plan.
Yeah,
true.
So, sometimes I get really confused because I see sometimes Erdogan turns to Putin and approaches to China, and everything like he seems like he has changed his mind or something, and then it's really confusing, and
it makes sense. It
doesn't make any sense. Yes.
Well, when you consider the fact that you got the white hat factions mostly in the US and the Russians threatening Erdogan, saying if you try to resurrect the Babylonian Empire on behalf of the Cabal under whatever pretext you want, you're done. and Erdogan's sort of caught in the middle, because ultimately, being an archon, all he cares about is himself, really, and he's just trying to play both sides and try to somehow survive. That's where, and so there's a lot of to and fro meetings between the factions going on, because there's always constant meetings, constant negotiations going on. So that may explain some of the confusion as to that can come up when you see Erdogan meeting with Putin and whoever else, because although the factions are very much, the intense rivalry is very much there, but at the same time, it's a kind of incestuous sort of situation at these levels of power. That they talk with each other all the time. So we have to sort of wait and see. We don't know exactly. Go ahead.
Let me summarize it. Before he even elected as a prime minister, he was giving interviews, and in that interviews, he was saying basically you can find this video while he was saying that on YouTube. He was saying, if my superiors orders me to wear a priest robe, I will wear it.
Okay, just repeat that. Or Summer, do you want to?
So he has said that if Erdogan, on an interview, and apparently this is on a YouTube video, he has said that if my superiors tell me to wear a priest's robe, I will wear it. Yes, I will wear it, yes.
Yeah.
So this is the guy who is like a Muslim and supporting for the Islamic, good Islamic agenda. So basically, which is not. And like I said before, he seems to all of this, but he brought into power by the cabal, but along the way he's lost and drunk by the power. And now he just threatened by becoming a lame duck, as Americans call it.
Lame duck president.
Lame duck, yeah. And because if he wins this presidential election, if he cannot get this. If he cannot get majority of the parliament, he will be basically lame duck. So he has to be president to not to leave this situation again, not to take this risk again. Basically, suppress all the parliaments and be the long-living dictator. And furthering the cabal agenda, because. Like I said, if he does that, or he will be killed in the end. So,
I want to take this to a more positive place at this moment, if you guys agree. We are at the crossroads, and I think all light workers around the world should look at this situation, and they should put their intention out there for the Turkish people to make the best decision for the common good, for the whole world, because this is really something very important. And I want to remind everybody that in the past, and Erdogan has been in power for the past 16 years, that right before the elections and during the elections, we have had a lot of interesting things happening. And some of these things were there were unplanned power outages where there was voting happening in those buildings. And we ended up finding some of the voting ballots at the trash dumps. So interestingly, a couple days before the elections, there were some private videos of some candidates appearing online everywhere, and the list goes on and on.
Election fraud, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say anything like that, but for some reason, very unfortunate things are happening. So I actually would like to invite everybody to our meditation. We are organizing a worldwide meditation for people to help us and meditate with us at the same moment, so that the people of Turkey will be able to vote peacefully, and their free will be reflected in the election results. Yeah. And keep in mind that there are more than 2 million Syrian refugees are living in Turkey, and one of the things happening here is they are given Turkish passports and they are able to vote now. So, and you can
Erdogan, Erdogan deliberately bringing them in to use them as a voting bloc.
Yes, it seems that way. So it is very, very important. Please, everybody use their own guidance and think about this. This is the area where almost everything started, and it looks like they are planning to end this year too. So let's put our positive intentions for Turkey out there and meditate with us. And I think you will be able to. You will help us spread the word about this meditation.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. You will have the backing of the burgeoning 144K, and we'll spread this to other groups. Now, before we get into an ancient Bible that was recently found in Turkey, known as the Gospel of Barnabas. Okay, so yes, the rabbit hole goes even deeper, folks. Let's quickly give out the date and time for the worldwide mass meditation for this. So, any of you who have that in front of you, just go ahead.
Okay. An ancient Bible called Gospel of Barnabas, or Bible of Barnabas, recently found in Turkey.
One sec, Patriot. I got the date here. It's June 23rd.
Yes.
4 p.m. GMT, and I'll be giving out the international times on every time zone.
Right. It's 10 p.m. Turkish time, and yes, we will be giving all the international times for everybody. Yes.
So, is this the actual day of the presidential election itself? Just to clarify.
The election is going to take place on June 24th.
June 24th. Okay,
so we
great.
are meditating hours before the meditation starts.
Fantastic.
Election starts.
Yes, and this is the presidential election, not the parliamentary election. Is that correct?
Both are happening the first day. So yes.
Okay.
And if it's needed, the second one will be only the presidential election, which will take place on 8th of July.
If it's needed. If there's no clear majority or something.
Yes.
Right,
yes.
And it's going to be between two candidates, I believe.
Right. So with the initial...
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so with the initial election on the 23rd of June, there'll be several presidential candidates, and if there's no clear winner or one or two candidates that have a clear majority, then they're going to do the second round of presidential elections to finalise. Okay, great. So, folks, once again, it's up to us to unite with this single goal of doing this worldwide global meditation and utilise the power of our consciousness to make, ultimately, both physical and non-physical quantum wave particles to fall and collapse into whatever time-space event and timeline that we choose. In this case, in particular, supporting all Turkish citizens for their free will to be expected, to be honoured, I should say, and to choose the highest possible timeline as a result of this election or after this election, which will influence the whole globe.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
And thank you. And let me add something really quick. Like the people will be doing. People are willing to do more and more things to have this change, have this positive outcome.
Mm-hmm.
People like thousands and thousands and thousands of people are not going to only vote on 24th of June. They're also going to be they're also going to stay for the counting for the votes. So to be sure that there is no cheating, because in
the past there were some questions about that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like thousands of people are willing to do that and spend their whole night, maybe whole day, in that rooms, little rooms to count that
Watch the
votes.
counting. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
And so all needs are welcomed.
Fantastic. That's great. So we're going to be there and to pick the timeline, to control the timelines and pick the timeline that is for the highest good for humanity. Okay?
Yeah.
Because if it's successful enough, we can raise the planet to a high enough frequency where a short, intense war won't even be needed. Okay, that's possible. That's very possible, and that's what we're going to shoot for. And that's what we're here for. We're soul-bound, duty-bound at the soul level to, show up for this and put our hearts and minds behind the highest possible outcome for humanity, which in turn will only bring the event even closer. Okay.
Exactly. Yes.
So. With that out of the way, and I'll give away the dates and times again towards the end of this show, folks, because, as a representative for the 144K, we'll be doing our part. We'll be showing up on the energetic battlefield and doing what we can to do a very extensive energy clearing session.
Thank you very much. Yes.
And it's important. We have to show Source that we're ready for these higher timeline frequencies and the responsibility that comes with reclaiming our free will. Okay, we have to prove ourselves ready for this. That our consciousness has matured and grown enough where we can be our own responsible adults once again, which is part and parcel on the road to rejoining the galactic community.
Yes.
So let's make it happen.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Now, where are we? Let's get into the Gospel of Barnabas. Okay. So we're getting right deep into this. We're going to get real biblical here on you here. We got I guess you can call it an ancient version, I beg your pardon, of the Bible that was recently found in Turkey. It's referred to as the Gospel of Barnabas. And some very powerful Jesuits, coincidentally, came to Turkey and suppressed this information. Lo and behold.
Yes.
Okay, now what can you tell us about this?
Okay. First of all, not much thing known about this earlier, ancient version of Bible called the Gospel of Barnabas.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing leaked from it is it says Peter, the founder of the Catholic Church, was a charlatan. He took everything Jesus Christ said and converted it to something.
Something that wasn't very true and more of an instrument of control, basically.
Yes.
So let me give you some physical details of this thing. It is believed to be 1500 years old. It is written in Aramaic language with the Assyrian letters, and then it is written on leather. The Bible is written on leather. The pages are leather.
Leather, yes.
So.
Okay.
And apparently it was at a police station held for 8 years, and then they realized that it was there, right? Is that the Bible you are talking about, the Turkish Patriot?
Well,
it was held at a police station, and then they realized it was an important artifact.
I haven't heard that information.
Either way, Turkey still has the manuscript, but nobody's allowed to see it, based on my research.
Okay.
And so it seems to be under lock and key in Turkey.
Yes, like strictly locked up, because it's really, really sensitive, because it's holding the power of possibility of
distracting
of known Christianity, and along with that also other religions, because as you know, also Islam, like all the religions, build on its processor, and Islam is
prophet
also in some way built on Christianity. So it's really it's highly sensitive matter.
Yes, they're referred to as the Abrahamic religions because they're all Abrahamic. Okay, and we've again, based on what I've gotten here, the British Crown told Turkey that if they allowed this information to go public, that they'll and in the process destroy the foundation of the Christian religion, at least Catholicism it seems, that they in turn will destroy Islam and your religion, which is funded by the US, according to this bit of research, which wouldn't surprise me, but you know, it has to be said that all religions, you know, have been distorted. Well, seemingly all religions have been distorted, to one degree or another. I mean, Emperor Constantine distorted Eastern Orthodoxy and really Christianity as a whole, really. And all religions are just going to have to face the truth, whatever that truth may be, in terms of true spirituality. And, you know, we can proudly say light workers are a hell of a lot closer to this truth than any mainstream religion, much closer by far. You know, but at the same time, I'm not denigrating mainstream religions per se, well, namely the followers of it. But, you know, the British Crown in this example, you know, they're worried about this only because they have a certain degree of control over us peasants through Christianity, and that's how it's always been. Because they don't care about Christianity, they're Satanists. You know, the MI5 and the MI6 has been saying this for some time. They're Satanists. They couldn't care less about Christianity. But it has been a handy tool of control over the people, and you know, having a thesis against an antithesis being Islam, and many of us are quite familiar with all this.
Yes.
What would you like to add to that before we move on?
Okay, it is suspected how British Crown threatened Turkey in the matter of this Gospel of Barnabas. Goes back to the times of Muhammad, because Muhammad, many people don't know this. Muhammad, when he born, his father was already dead, so he was an orphan, and his uncle and grandfather raised him. Both were merchants, really rich merchants, and they were pagan in that time.
Pagan, yes.
Yeah, uncle and grandfather. And Muhammad raised into that trade and that surroundings, and he married with a woman called Hatice, who was a Christian earlier, and she became Muslim after she married with Muhammad. But the sensitive information is this: Hatice's cousin was connected to early form of Jesuits, often referred to as Dark Brotherhood or the Sons of Belial, which may sound familiar to some listeners. Like Belial, the name of Belial refers some like really dark stuff, and these organizations are ancient and early forms of the factions of Cabal, as we call it today. So. And in the book, in the Holy Book of Islam, it says Muhammad is learned many things from this guy, the cousin of the Hatice.
Yeah. So in other words, Vatican connection. In other words, the bloodlines running the show. Once again.
Yeah, but there's also this. I'm not saying it's totally dark. I believe it's not totally dark and it's not totally up to an agenda. I actually genuinely believe it's started as authentic, but Jesuits, which called Sons of Belial, at that time they knew it's going to happen, and they tried to infiltrate and take control of it, even from the start.
Yeah, the way they, to a significant degree, subverted Christianity, with the whole beginning with the whole concept of God is something outside of you, as opposed to God is something within you. You're an extension of God. You are God, being the first main trick and lie. But many light workers are familiar with this reality and how, religious teachings started off on a good foot, just like Freemasonry, just like, Templars and what have Rosicrucians, and then got infiltrated and subverted.
Exactly.
It's the same old story.
Yes.
And again, us as light workers, we're here to clean all that up, to bring humanity back to the freedom and love that's inherent within truth.
Yes.
Okay, as the old saying goes, the truth shall set you free, and that's what it all comes down to, as far as our soul path and soul mission is concerned. So, speaking of light workers, tell us quickly about what it's a borrowed term, admittedly, but what I affectionately call Team Turkey, the light worker community in Turkey.
Yes.
What can you tell us about the awakening light worker movement in Turkey? Just give us some quick details about that, and then we'll have to wind up since we're running out of time, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I would like to talk about my story a little bit because it ties to how we created this light worker movement in Turkey. In December of 2014, when you guys were doing the ISIS second portal activation, I think, I had a dream, and when I woke up in the morning, I woke up as a vegetarian. I couldn't eat meat, any type of meat anymore. And I just want to talk about this a little bit because this is very interesting. I don't know if you guys read Coleman Barks. I'm a big fan, and he is the guy who actually translates Jalaluddin Rumi's poems to English. and he is doing a really great job. And he is also describing, as he is explaining, why he's translating Rumi's work by saying that he also had a dream, and then that's how it kind of started. And he said in his dream he saw a guy, and then 1.5 years later he saw the guy in person, which happened to be a Sufi named Baba Muayyidin. And he says, well, you guys, if you don't want to believe it, you don't believe it, but I don't have the luxury. So it is the same story for me, because I had a dream, woke up vegetarian, and I realized that I needed to meditate. And as I started meditating, I had some Kundalini awakenings. And then in May of 2015, I had this strong inner urge to create a blog and translate David Wilcock Cobra material and spiritual stuff. Being a Turkish person, I actually said, okay, I don't see this information in Turkey. I have to do this. I have to translate these and let the people know. Yeah. So I started doing this, and other people started connecting me as they were reading my articles, translations. I became a PFC volunteer to translate PFC stuff to Turkish. So people were more than ready, and they were very welcoming. Then we created our Facebook group, and eventually Turkish Patriots found me there too. And now we have created a community over 5,500 people. I didn't actually check the last number. So this
and
is what I want.
Most of them reside in Turkey itself, or Europe and North America?
Yes.
Majority, most of these people are in Turkey, and we have people. We have artists. We have people from all interest, like careers, and everybody, young people who are looking for the truth. But I just have to tell you this: Turkish people are living on a more accelerated timeline. So, well, they have gone through too many wars in their lives, and they have seen coups, too many governments. There were wars around their countries. So these people have hit the bottom, and they are now asking themselves, what is wrong? So they are asking the right questions right now, and many people are awakening. And I just wanted that more to that by underground Turkey is full of tunnels and living areas. Who knows who is living there? So if there is negative presence in underground Turkey, so there has to be more light workers there too. So I just want to say, I'm proud of my friends. We are doing a great job, and we are growing very fast.
Yeah, that's very inspirational to hear. Very inspirational to hear. And you mentioned that in truth, religious people within Turkey, Muslims, I guess, are not opposed to the idea that we're not alone in the universe. And even the Quran says there are only two stars, which is the sun and, the term is Shira, or Sirius, in other words. And to that effect, it was when you told me that when apparently it was some sort of a interview or survey of some sort, people were asked in Turkey, people on the street, when asked what would they do if aliens were coming, the common response was, I would give them a hug. And so the Turkish people have,
So,
go ahead.
Mediterranean people, they, these, as I said, they hit the bottom, and they just have to make fun of some things to continue their existence. Otherwise, they will lose their minds.
Yeah, exactly.
So people are there's a strong awakening movement in Turkey, and hopefully the results of this election is going to reflect that as well.
Yeah, well, it seems like all citizens in Turkey have come to that evolutionary point in consciousness and growth that they're sick and tired of all the games, the wars, the political chaos. They're recognising, it seems, that it's all just games, and they're tired of it, and they just want their freedom.
Can I add something about how Turkish people take this situation? I mean, we are not alone in the universe. In the Quran, the holy book of the Islam, it says it mentions one another star called Shira, which is basically Sirius, and it says something similar. Definitely, it's the direction of the Creator. Or like I'm not sure about the translation.
Okay.
And
it's a crater of some sort, or cradle.
Yes, not the Creator.
Go ahead, Summer. What do you know about this?
Well, honestly, I haven't read Quran. I started reading it, but I just couldn't, finish it. But but it doesn't matter. It's in Arabic language. It's like even the Turkish translations don't mean much. I mean,
yes.
So, but in any case, I guess what we are trying to say is, yes, Turkish people actually are ready to accept the fact that we are not alone in the universe.
Yeah, definitely. And it's important because, we know that the southeastern Turkey is pretty much right next to the ancient, Babylonian, Cabal-controlled Sumerian civilization, ancient Babylon, and that the rivers, let me see here, the Tigris and Euphrates River come from the mountains of southeastern Turkey.
Exactly, yes.
And, it was always said that Damascus would be destroyed just before the so-called apocalypse, which we're trying to turn into the event. And that's largely happened. Large parts of Damascus and many major cities throughout Syria are largely destroyed. So that part of the so-called prophecy has been fulfilled. So that's why this critical pivot point, fork in the road, with the presidential elections on the, the 23rd of June, 24th of June. That's why it's so critical. And you will get email reminders, folks. Just be sure you're subscribed. Join the 144K. Let's swell our ranks. Let's make it happen with this mass meditation. Subscribe. Just watch your inbox for email notifications and confirmations about the June 24th mass meditation. I want to add that in quickly. And let's move on to Sisterhood of the Rose groups that are forming in Turkey. And they're doing their part to anchor goddess energy in all the major cities. Yes. That's a big deal. And Turkish grid workers have been busy. There has been grid work being done in Turkey. Many grid work projects to anchor the light throughout Turkey, even Iran, Iraq, and Syria. What did you want to just quickly add to that?
Oh.
Yeah, we travel to these places. We gather, meditate. I think it was like in January we visited. Some of our friends visited Göbekli Tepe, and we have been trying to anchor as much light as possible to all these areas. Some of our friends actually went to Syria, Iraq, and Iran. We are working very hard, and we have very determined light workers there.
Yeah, you have been busy, which is great to see, because there is a deadline with this sort of thing, and it's more than just the upcoming presidential elections in Turkey. And You know, which way the election goes will decide how rough things will get for the region, and therefore possibly the world. You know, with the white hat presidential win in the US in 2016, it's allowed things to go more, you know, although it's longer, it's still more peaceful, more stable, legal sort of route in kicking out the bloodlines. So we're hoping to achieve the same success in Turkey with the upcoming presidential elections, make sure that the right guy gets in. You know, again, it's that higher timeline, the highest possible timeline frequency we're going to shoot for, where a war won't even be necessary to achieve the goal of bringing the event right up to our doorfront.
And let's help us awaken the goddess in Turkey. You know, there are many goddess vortexes in Turkey. Please help us.
Yes.
Yes, and let me add something. Like Turkish people or the people who lives in Turkey are waking up in so many ways. Like to many listeners' surprise, the first exopolitics, aka galactic diplomacy courses are started to give in an university, an actual university, first time in the world in Turkey, in Akdeniz University.
Wow, that's not even happening in the West.
Yeah,
yes.
It actually hit. Yeah, it hit the news in the U.S. too. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. In that respect, the academia in Turkey is leading the way.
Yeah.
You know, we can comfortably say that. And finally legitimise, well, from a 3D matrix perspective at least, legitimising and normalising the reality of exopolitics and how that often has the overriding influencing sort of role in geopolitics and societal sort of situations here on the surface. So it's very inspirational to see what's happening in Turkey, and we're going to accelerate things even further to the highest timeline frequency as possible come the 23rd of June, 4 p.m. GMT. Let's make it happen, folks. Prepare yourself, you know, energetically speaking, array yourself for battle. At least for the light warriors who work in that way, depending on what your strength, talent and purpose is, we all work differently and fulfill different roles and purposes, energetically speaking, and that's including during mass meditations. So let's make it happen. Your website, let me see here. Just quickly give out your website. Summer, beginning with you. Go ahead.
So my website is ushiachari2015.blogspot.com. I think we will have the links, I believe, when we share online this interview. Also, we do have PFC websites for Turkey, so you will have all those links. It's a long link. It doesn't make sense to say it. Yeah.
No, so, I understand. We'll folks, just go back to the promotional article for this radio show episode. You'll see it at the top there at returntoyourtruth.com/blog. You'll see the headline there about Turkey and the upcoming presidential elections, and it's going to be big. Another big pivotal moment coming yet again, folks. So, Turkish Patriot and Summer, thank you for your time. Unfortunately, we ran out of time. It was wonderful speaking to both of you, and now that everyone has clarity on what the deal is and what we need to do over the coming, week, hardly a week. You know, we've got the solstice meditation. That's going to play a critical role. That'll help improve things for the presidential election alone, and then we got I suppose it's a pre-presidential election mass meditation. So it'll be a succession of 2 big mass meditations, and that's really important, folks. It'll really, if nothing else, okay, it'll really help lift the whole planet to higher timeline frequencies and its respective higher frequency grid of more positive events taking place and things going in a better way. So thanks again, Turkish Patriot and Summer. It was wonderful chatting with you. Everyone
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Understood. We know what's going on now. The average light worker knows what's going on, for those who listen to this interview at least. And let's make it happen, folks. Okay, this is The Unknown Light Warrior. You're listening to Ground Crew Command Radio. With whatever time we have left, we'll do the geopolitics update, which isn't going to be a lot this time because, you know, all the attention and all eyes are on Turkey these next few days. So there we have it. See you on the other side of this very short musical break.
This is Ground Crew Command Radio. You're listening to The Unknown Light Warrior. And now you're savvy with what's happening in Turkey, with Turkey, how it's trying to be controlled by the cabal, the way it tried to control pretty much every other country, particularly the United States, to make another very large and ugly war. Obviously, we're not choosing that, are we, folks? To put it mildly. And to give you a few more reasons that'll really motivate you to be there and present at the time of tomorrow's solstice meditation and this Saturday afternoon's Turkish election mass meditation. And if this new bit of information that I'm about to give you doesn't motivate you to basically drop everything, do whatever you need to do to make sure you join this 144K mass meditation, beginning with the solstice tomorrow, nothing will. You've pretty much abdicated. So let me start off with this one thing. The cabal has, first of all, I'm going to give you the geopolitical side of it, what's happening on the ground, and then the energetic side of things, which is very interesting, and you'll definitely want to hold on for this one. So, the cabal has successfully managed to get an army, and I mean army as in the literal sense, an army of 3 million military-age Muslim men into Europe under the guise of Syrian refugees. The vast majority of them are from Afghanistan and Pakistan, and we all know who resides there or used to reside there, and that is the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. And of course, many ISIS mercenaries are a part of this as well, or just mercenaries in general. They've been, under the guise of Syrian refugees, they've been infiltrated into Europe. And it is strongly believed that there's stashes of weapons in various locations in Europe that will be distributed to these particular military age males. Okay. And so this is supported by the fact that, and many of you know this, okay, that the P2 Freemason Lodge, which is basically the next lower down networking group of the bloodlines themselves, have always had a plan to force Islam and Christianity to fight each other, seemingly in Europe itself, with such a massive army there that can easily be armed, because God knows these guys know how to use an AK-47 and RPGs. Rest assured, those stashes are there. You know, the French have been finding a few, French authorities have been finding a few just a few months ago of these weapons depots. You know, and I spoke about that. You know, these are Fulford's sources that I know aren't 100% accurate. They may be 80% accurate, but it's already known. It's already been found. There's evidence of this, is what I'm trying to say. And all these ISIS mercenaries, former Taliban and Al-Qaeda fighters, up to 3 million of them, okay, they're going to be activated at certain points to start a literal military conventional war between Christianity and Islam, and to somehow use that to merge the two into a single one world religion controlled by the cabal. Now, you got to remember, this is showing signs, strong signs of that not happening. We got Sweden that has mobilised its home guard for the first time in 40 years, to quote Ben Fulford, to deal with the lawless government, no-go zones created inside Sweden by these mostly Muslim men who are certainly not legitimate refugees. It is a deliberate infiltration of an army, of a hostile army. And we have to get that and to understand what we're dealing with here. So, Home Guard in Sweden is being mobilised. So someone, thank God, is waking up there. You got the government in Austria kicking out imams and mobilising its border police as another wave of 80,000 migrants approaches their border. You got Italy refusing, the new anti-EU, anti-cabal government, it seems, refusing to accept any more quote-unquote refugees. And, you know, we all know about Hungary, we all know about Poland, and never mind Russia. So they may not be able to pull it off. Like George Soros said, everything that can go wrong is going wrong. They're pretty much lost control of the US. It might not seem like it, only because, you know, they still control the mainstream corporate media here that feigns liberalism and benevolence, especially towards any kind of refugee. And when was it? I think it was last week. Just over 2,300 pedophiles were arrested in the US just last week, which is another big wave of, you could call mass arrests of pedophiles. And of course, anyone who watches Fox News or InfoWars knows that Peter Strzok, one of the key top echelon officials in the FBI, that is blatantly a cabal agent, and I suspect a Draco reptilian hybrid clone that came up to the surface back in 1996, according to Cobra. He's been fully exposed. And the blatant bias within the upper echelons of the FBI is being fully exposed. You know, the cat's well and truly out of the bag. So that's the deal there. And, you know, that supports, you know, George Soros's statement that everything that is going wrong or can go wrong is going wrong. And this is the point. This is why they are absolutely desperate to make sure the current incumbent Turkish president, Erdogan, wins the upcoming presidential elections. Because then they have a hope of, starting World War III and resurrecting their old Sumerian/Babylonian empire. So they're more desperate for things in Turkey to go that way. And you and I are going to be there to stand between them, this intent, and basically the rest of humanity. Okay? It's as simple as that. We have to step up. And again, to support Soros' statement, France and Germany are not far from having a regime change there as well. And when that happens, and it looks like it's almost certainly going to happen in Germany, the EU is lost. The cabal loses Europe. Seemingly its last sort of stronghold. And if we step up tomorrow for the solstice 21st, 144K mass meditation, that's the kind of thing we stand to make happen, to occur, which is the cabal to lose control of France and Germany as well, which is pretty much the core of the EU, the core of Europe. That's what we stand to gain here. To make them lose control over France and Germany far quicker and with less commotion and violence in the streets and all that kind of thing, less instability and volatility. So it's up to us. Remember, to put it in old-fashioned male verbiage, I guess, he who controls the energies controls the planet. Make absolutely no mistake about that. Now, so that's a geopolitical aspect of what hangs in the balance and what we stand to gain, depending on how many of us turn up tomorrow morning. It'll be morning hours, early morning hours in the US, for the 2018 21st of June summer solstice mass meditation of the 144K. Now it gets even more interesting. By the way, to get the details of tomorrow's mass meditation and Saturday's Turkish presidential election mass meditation, go to returntoyourtruth.com/blog, and you'll see the top article over there titled It's On 144K mass meditation on June 21st, solstice and critical Turkey election mass meditation on June 23rd. Okay, that's where you'll find the details. You'll find the links here for not just the precise times, which I'll give away shortly anyway, but also you also have the details of the link to your time zone. Okay, that's where it all is. So I'll read out the exact times shortly, but let me finish on this critical point because we've only got 8 minutes left and I still have to cover the 5 points of how to make things easier for you to focus and participate and visualize on tomorrow's mass meditation. So first, and this information comes from Lolita Caroli, I guess a wonderful, talented, gifted astrologer. She says that tomorrow's solstice, again, that pivot, that fork in the road for humanity to get on to an opportunity to get onto an even higher timeline to make the event happen much sooner, much smoother. She says there'll be new templates for the golden age that are going to be, I suppose, downloaded and accreted into our personal grids, our Gaia's grids. And God knows non-physical darkness is going to use whatever technological infrastructure it has left to stop that from happening. Okay. Again, we have to be there to make sure that goes without a single hitch, exactly the way Goddess wants to go, period. Now, and there's going to be some sort of a 0 point related to this. It's kind of like a 0 point moment. It's the beginning of a new procession of the ages, and knowing it'll help, I suppose, bring closer to home, bring closer to your own visceral, day-to-day, conscious waking hours experience. The knowing that you are one with the universe, and the universe will respond to you, to what you choose, to what you want to create. Where everything that you think is solid and therefore can't be moved, shifted, changed, could disappear in a heartbeat. And it's about the heartbeat of the galactic central sun. Now, to me, what that implies is we may get a very significant mini galactic pulse, galactic flash. And if we're not there, if enough of us are not there to clear enough of the blackness, the muck, okay, it'll be much harder for Gaia and humanity and the human collective system to be able to accrete it with ease and grace, and you may get jolts, roughness as a result, the occasional earthquake, a bit of geopolitical upheaval, more people freaking out, that kind of thing. If we're not there, the army of light clearing everything to absorb and conduct this light. You know, we're staring right down the barrel of a mini but significant galactic pulse, a galactic flash that'll, you know, which is part of our stepping stone precursor and preparation and prerequisite to the big one, the event itself. So don't kid yourself about how critical the army of light shows up on the battlefield tomorrow morning. And a big kudos to my beautiful partner for providing that information. I had to ask her to do the research because I'm just overwhelmed here. And let me give out the details once again. June 21st, solstice mass meditation. Okay, 6 a.m. That's when we're going to start. Actually, try to show up about 10 minutes prior to that. Okay, because I'm going to take us all up and Gaia up to the teams where we have even more power. 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow, 21st of June. Go to returntoyourtruth.com/blog and scroll down a bit on the article at the top that starts with "It's on," and you'll see the time and date that's already preset as an event that'll automatically convert to your time zone. Now, if it'll go for about an hour because this is actual energy work. Of course, if 15 to 20 minutes is all you can spare, please still show up. Okay, and the link for tomorrow's episode to connect with, because it'll be on this same platform, on Blog Talk Radio, Ground Crew Command radio show page. You know, the link is all in that article, and just click that link to join, or you can call the guest call-in number, which is also down there. And of course, the Turkish presidential election, that's on this coming Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so it'll be Sunday in most parts of the world. Okay, we might lose the live broadcast here, so download this episode and skip to the front here in about 15 minutes from now when the download becomes available. So, Turkish presidential election mass meditation day, 23rd of June, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, the time zone conversion link that's automated for your time zone is on that article. That'll begin at 1 a.m. Turkish time. Okay, but we're all going to show up on the so-called battlefield at 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Times. And to make sure the light forces liberate Turkey and take over Turkey. And that'll be an hour in duration. Now, I'm getting up at 2 a.m. for tomorrow's solstice meditation. And most of us on the West Coast and mountain time, that's what we're looking at. We all have to get up at about 2 to 2:30 a.m. to be sharp, ready, focused, alert by or prior to 3 a.m. Okay, this is what planetary liberation operations are like sometimes. It's like military operations. For real, you know, it doesn't happen when you want it to happen at a convenient, suitable time. Okay, liberating a whole planet doesn't work that way, unfortunately. Okay, so again, those links to join the live broadcast of the live guided broadcast, guided by yours truly, so we can all be as one, will be the links are on that article for that, and that'll take you to the you're shown where to click. Okay. It's on the Blog Talk platform, and you'll see those links there on that article at returntoyourtruth.com/blog. Folks, please spread the link to this radio show, or more importantly, the link to the promotional article for this show, which is at the same URL of returntoyourtruth.com/blog. Spread it far and wide, folks. You know, need I say any more about what we stand to gain to make this happen? So let's do it. Now, to help you along in preparation for the 5 points of how to see the non-physical easier is point number 1, and you may want to write this down. Point number 1 is being still and calm. Okay? It's very hard to allow the psychic flow to occur if you're not still and calm. Okay, if you're still and calm, it more easily allows the psychic flow to occur. And even if you think you can't visualize, believe me, you have that capacity. And boy, we better be onto it tomorrow, given the stakes, but also given the opportunity. Such a golden opportunity to put humanity and Gaia on the highest frequency timeline that'll bring us to the event much closer, much sooner, and more smoothly without the instability and volatility. So, this point number 2 is, and this may seem kind of ironic or contradictory, you actually need to be unattached and have a nonchalant kind of approach, if you will, to this. Because, you know, because of the stakes, because of the opportunity of achieving freedom and walking and choosing and walking through the door where we can have freedom and abundance once again much, much sooner, yet again, despite all of that, you know, it puts a bit of pressure, right? Because we really want this freedom, that financial relief, the end to the roughness of the matrix, the slavery, giving all your energy to the matrix, especially if you have to hold a 9-to-5 job, and feeling your energy sucked and drained away, or you know, needing to avoid whatever toxic situation you have to deal with every day. You know, understandably, many of us are going to be pretty desperate, have a lot of angst to make sure we can do this right, to seize this opportunity. So try not to do that. Try to be chill and have an unattached, nonchalant approach to when you're sitting on that chair and projecting your consciousness, in other words, your presence, your power, onto that energetic battlefield. And in terms of seeing the non-physical, it's something that you don't really have to squint your eyes at. Okay, it actually happens instantaneously. It's like when you don't have to squint and try and work to see with your physical eyes, right? You just open your eyelids. It's actually the same with psychic seeing. It happens instantaneous. And you know how you sometimes get an image or a thought, seemingly a random image or a thought of something or someone, and then the phone rings, or you pass by something or someone on the street, or they pass you by, and sure enough, it's that whatever thing or that person that you were just thinking about. That's how it happens, instantaneously, without any effort, because it's a natural ability. Okay, so allow for the instantaneousness. All right. One gifted energy worker said when he would do planetary work, he would say to himself, just better hurry up and do this before my mind gets in the way. Okay. The programmed mind with its beliefs about the mysticism or the guruism of being able to see energy. So just do it. Just get into it in a nonchalant way before the mind gets in the way. So that's 3. Instantaneous. Okay. 4. Be present with the present. Because it's the present, in other words, the now, you've heard this 1,000 times, is the only thing that's real, and is the only place where your power exists, and it's the only place where your choice exists. Straightforward. I don't have to get into much detail about that. If you're not in the now and present with the present, you're trying to work with illusion. And we know how darkness plays with illusion. And lastly, number 5, use imagination. Use your wildest out there imagination. Because, as I've said many times before, and I'm going to say this until it sticks, because we know what the mind is like, right? Imagination is just like the word junk DNA. It's a misnomer. There's no such thing. It's all consciousness at the end of the day. And what you think, especially when you project your consciousness from the physical to the non-physical realms, what you think does collapse the quantum waveform particles, okay, the fabric of reality, into whatever local time, space events you want it to. That's one of the biggest secrets that darkness has, done everything it possibly could to make sure we don't rediscover. And now you know that. A fundamental of your power. Okay, and if last resort, if that doesn't seem to work, I mean, come on. If that still doesn't seem to work, pretend, as one wonderful mentor would say, put on your pretender glasses. Because that as well is, at the end of the day, just consciousness. And consciousness is king. And I'm talking about your consciousness, beloved one. Brave, soldier, warrior, emissary, and goddess of light. Because all this is sanctioned and mandated by Goddess for us to be there tomorrow morning at whatever hour, come hell or high water, so we can walk through that highest frequency door. That's the closest to freedom, unconditional free will and abundance. It'll be presented to us tomorrow on this alignment moment of the solstice, where we're looking at a galactic flash and we need to absorb that galactic flash and accrete it and conduct it throughout our personal grids and Gaia's grids as much as possible to lift humanity all the way back to freedom and our God selves. So let's make it happen, folks. Let's do it. I'll see you there.